This presentation of the D.I.C.E Awards would not be possible without the generous support of our premier sponsors, Electronic Arts, Nintendo, Parsec, PlayStation, Tencent Games, and Xbox Game Studios, media partner IGN, and supporting sponsors Hatch and Noodle House. Brought to you by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, this is the award celebration by game makers for game makers, honoring the games that connect players around the globe. No matter where we come from or what our interests, video games bring us together. We gather here to honor our fellow creators and the very best of interactive entertainment. Welcome to the 24th Annual D.I.C.E Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, the D.I.C.E Awards starts now.
Welcome to the D.I.C.E Awards. I'm Jessica Chobot.
I'm Greg Miller, and I'm not wearing pants.
Oh my God, Greg, come on.
Come on, Jess. Wait, it's a weird year for the D.I.C.E Awards. What you're wearing? What are you wearing? You wearing the full outfit? Let me see.
I'm wearing my awesome PJ bottoms.
See, that's everybody at home. They're doing the same thing. This ain't the usual. Oh, nice. Oh, those socks are nice.
No, the socks
you got the grips on them?
The socks are key. They're clutch.
Okay.
Nice and toasty. So yes, as you would expect, we're actually recording the D.I.C.E Awards a little bit differently this year.
That's right. At home. We are at home. This is our house. That's your house. There's no teleprompter.
No teleprompter, but ladies and gentlemen, they do not pay us enough to be off book.
They sure don't, Jess. So let's get this show on the road and look back at 2020.
All right, so this year, more than ever, video games were able to bring people together. Mostly so that we could just try and push each other off the ledge in order to win a Fall Guys crown, but still, together.
You're still playing with other people. It counts.
Yeah, it counts.
Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers came out last year, and it is set to become good this year.
Oh, gosh, that's a little harsh.
130 hours in that game. I can say whatever I want, Jess, all right? I bought every battle pass. Jess, I don't want to brag, but one of my greatest achievements of 2020 was getting 2 crowns in Fall Guys.
That's pretty good. Mine was actually learning how much my family relies on each other for a sense of true fulfillment and purpose. But yeah, I'm glad to hear about your crowns, Greg.
Yeah, well, now I'm not going to lie. I wish you had gone first on this topic.
Yeah, also, I won the crown a bunch too.
God damn.
Yeah. So being cooped up inside last year made me really grateful for brilliant games with beautiful visuals that made me feel like I was on a bit of a mind vacation, like Ghost of Tsushima.
Wait, like, you assassinate people on vacation?
Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to, Greg.
Oh, yeah, okay. You know what? Fair enough. Back to you, Jess.
Yeah, let's just move on. Another game that really helped me relax this year was Microsoft Flight Simulator. I wanted it to feel as much as the real thing as possible, so I bought myself a flight stick, an ultra widescreen monitor, and I actually had my husband come in and sit in front of me and lean his chair as far back as he possibly could, and then got my kid to kick the back of my seat and brought in my farty dog so I could feel like I was sitting right by the toilets. Just
immersion.
Total immersion, total nostalgia. It was like TGS flights all over again.
No, that's what you missed. You couldn't fly all this time. You're not thinking of being a TGS. You're not thinking of coming home. You're thinking of the flight. Okay. Obviously, this past year brought us a shocking event that none of us could have expected. GameStop became relevant again.
I will not lie. I had no idea what was going on.
I read a lot about it, and I could not explain it to you now, months removed from it. So,
no
yes,
clue.
Enjoy the bear and bull market. I loved Animal Crossing New Horizons when it came out, but I gotta be honest, I haven't played it in a while. It turns out that of all the things in the world I couldn't do last year, I did not miss yard work.
Yeah, also stop yelling at me just because I'm gone for a few days, Raymond. Some of us have real jobs.
I don't need to hear about my new nickname. I don't need to be guilted for not coming here. Let me buy the Mario stuff and go away.
Yep, seriously. Now, one of my favorite games this year was Hades. Not only did it have pitch-perfect gameplay, but it also told a really powerful story about what if everyone in the underworld was super hot.
So impossibly hot. The abs on these people, are you kidding me right now? So many games touched us this year. The Last of Us Part 2, of course, gave us one of the most tragic and heartbreaking stories of all time, while Cyberpunk 2077 gave us one of the most tragic and heartbreaking releases of all time.
Yeah, it's true. In all seriousness, it legit made me feel really sad.
don't be serious in this show. This is where we just don't pull the punches.
All
You heard me
right.
talk about GameStop, all right? Keep moving.
Okay, fine. Well, obviously, like we said, it wasn't an easy year. Even E3 got canceled.
Yes, sadly, we found its old tweets.
Oh, okay. Moving on. Awkward.
Don't move on. Revel in it.
No.
The Last of Us Part 2 follows the brutal story of a woman who will stop at nothing to get revenge, and also weirdly collectible trading cards.
This is gonna sound a little strange, but I feel like that line alone, like the revenge and collectibles line, kind of perfectly describes my life. Like, you might need to run for your life as a brutal cult hunts you down, but you still have time to explore the room a little bit and see if you can't pull up a card or two.
To rewind, that doesn't sound a little strange. You could either say it sounds strange or very strange.
Hey man, I've made it this far. I think I'm just gonna keep rolling with it.
Whatever it takes, Jess. I'll see you in a year, hopefully, in real life. Microsoft shut down Mixer last year, and if you don't remember what Mixer was, you can hear all about it on my Twitch channel.
Yes, and because we still like punching someone when they're down, Cyberpunk 2077 also had a controversial release last year, like we mentioned before. A lot of people criticized the game for barely working on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, but at the end of the day, really, technology that makes you sad is as cyberpunk as it gets.
See, it's meta. You guys didn't understand what CD Projekt Red was trying to do. It was more. This is the fourth dimensional kind of game Kojima's always talking about, right? You felt it when you saw it not run on your PlayStation 4. 2020 was an amazing year for games.
And that's pretty much all we're gonna remember about it.
Nothing else was notable about 2020.
No, keep your eyes forward, eyes on the prize. Just get through this. Don't question it. Also, this is the 5th year of us hosting the show, which kind of blows my mind because I did not realize that it's been that long. And like we said before, I know it feels a little bit different, but trust me, we are getting just as few laughs as we have in previous years.
It has stayed the same. It is constant.
Crickets.
This time the Twitch chat still really angry about it, and this year they're like, they don't have to ask why. Is the room mic'd? And we're like, no, the room isn't mic'd. That's why nobody's laughing. That was the problem.
That's what it is. As we mentioned earlier, we had to do this year's DICE Awards a little bit differently.
For example, it's now impossible for me to corner Corey Barlog at the after party and get drunk and ask him a bunch of questions about Ragnarok.
And probably not the best example, Greg.
Fair enough, but even though being remote presented us a whole host of problems, right, it gave us a lot of interesting and incredible opportunities.
Yeah, namely that it allowed us to bring the DICE Awards to a global audience. It is now truly a global event.
And rather than just hand out awards, we realized we had the ability to have all the amazing people nominated tonight in to talk about their craft in virtual roundtables.
Yep, and to introduce how it'll all work, here's our third host.
He's a good friend and an even greater person. This is Khalif Adams.
Thank you so much, Greg. It was a huge honor for me to speak with so many wonderful video game developers, writers, artists, and musicians.
Now, Khalif, while it was an honor, why don't you talk about how long it took you to do this?
It took literally dozens of hours, which is why we had to trim them all down a little bit for time. But for some of you, you'll see highlights from those amazing conversations, and for others, you'll see kind of a more traditional awards presentation.
Yeah, but the good news is that every roundtable will be posted in its entirety over the next couple of months, including discussions that didn't make it into today's show.
Yeah, and those rooms were amazing to host, and I hope you all get a chance to watch all of the conversations. But what I took from all of those discussions is that we're really lucky to be a part of this industry, no matter whether you play, you host, you report, stream, or develop.
So the schedule will be up very soon on interactive.org, and then a new roundtable will post every couple of weeks.
So without further ado, let's get the show started.
Our first roundtable of the show is for outstanding achievement in game design.
As you'll see, it takes a special type of person to be a game designer. They need to be creative, technical, detail-oriented, not enjoy vacation days, don't want to see their family, and be underappreciated. If you're having fun and feel like the game just works, then there is a good chance these are the people responsible.
Let's take a look.
Let's dive in with the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Game Design. When new technology has kind of come into the space and become available, how does that kind of change the way you've thought about game design, and how does that kind of move the game design idea kind of forward in terms of the games that you've made?
I think the technology is it feels like it just keeps coming, and things become much more lush and experiential. And if anything, that says you really need to keep your eye on the ball of what the experience is you're trying to give people. Suddenly that becomes more and more important as graphic fidelity improves and animation nuance. It's no longer can we pull it off, it's what do we pull off with these things.
For us, it's just constant iteration. We play the game, something's not right, and we try to fix it. And so as sort of technology evolves, kind of our priority as designers is how can we make it work for us so we can do things faster, like faster builds, faster, just seeing the results in game.
It's all the little details too that we get to push for the technology of like, okay, for example, maybe we had some plants in the space, and now how do we get them to move well as the player moves forward, moves through them? When we talk about immersion, we talk about that feeling. It's like, more of the things in the world move or break or react to you. Your feeling of being in the space.
You hit it right there with Miles. A big part is his electric powers, and like how we showcase that with VFX and dynamic lights and all that stuff is something we couldn't hit it on fidelity level that we're able to hit now. And it just really starts connecting you and immersing you even more in the games.
One of the things I love the most about Hades in that way is that it feels like with every layer of that game, each part of it kind of unveils itself as this extra layer of this beautiful cake that we get a chance to kind of partake in it. What was your goal when kind of designing each of the gods' abilities?
Yeah, it's a combination of what does the game need? Like what is an example of something that the game still lacks, a player power that might be an interesting build path for them. And that's kind of more of a game design perspective. For something like Demeter, in Hades' expression of Demeter is that she's really, really upset that Persephone is gone missing. And so, she blankets the world in eternal ice. That's a kind of our unique interpretation on Demeter. I don't think you necessarily expect ice powers from her, but it's also came out of a game need in our early access, which is Hades got really, 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 really fast over the course of its early access. And there was a need for a set of boons that basically slowed the enemies down in some way and opened up some of these other powers. And at the intersection of like our needs on the design side and our desire to portray Demeter in this specific way as the goddess of the seasons and specifically cold, we basically wrap those things together.
Corey, I'm kind of curious about that from Half-Life Alyx perspective, because you have a very special thing that you have to account for, which is the player and in their bodies being in VR physically. Your eyes get tired, your head gets tired from having a headset on. What's the conversation that you all kind of talked through about, how do we want to kind of display this story in a way that also gives you the satisfaction as a player to feel like you've had this epic journey, but also doesn't make you tired when you're like, I need to take this headset off, or my eyes hurt for being that close to a VR screen. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that before you wrap.
Sure. Being able to tell a story through Alyx became an interesting challenge. Since in the previous games, we've never had the protagonist talk. Like Gordon is a silent protagonist. He's always getting talked to. And it was interesting to try and explore what happens if we make Alyx talk. And it was interesting because even on the team, I think we were probably split 50-50 that was going to be a good idea or not. And it wasn't until we actually started executing on it and putting real voiceover and stuff like that into the game that people started responding more positively to it.
Now we're going to dig into it. The winner of the D.I.C.E Award for Outstanding Achievement Game Design is Hades. Congratulations, congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a huge honor to have been nominated among a group of just amazing games this year. Really, really well-designed games. Games that try to do a lot of what we hope to do in terms of like melding world building and atmosphere and narrative with their mechanics. And frankly, it's just amazing to even be included in the conversation with these games, which are huge, huge inspiring productions that are really, really complicated to put together, and means a lot for our small design team. So thank you very much.
Congratulations to Hades.
Well earned indeed. Moving on, our next award is for Outstanding Achievement in Character. And this year, there were a lot of good characters to talk about.
A little note, due to technical difficulties, Ashley Swidowski, Ashley Johnson, and Laura Bailey couldn't join us as initially planned, but Hallie Gross nailed it for Team Last of Us Part 2. So many wonderful folks stepped up to be a part of this.
Welcome to the 24th Annual D.I.C.E Awards and the conversation with our nominees around the outstanding achievement in character. These are the creators who's voted by their peers to be at the top of their game. What makes, in your mind, a really good character, a really fantastic or great one? And how do you kind of bring the attributes that you're thinking about, to the games that you've had a chance to write on or act in?
The thing that we really hinge on is we're looking for aspirational characters, and especially with the Miles game, a big thing for us was from the very beginning, we really wanted to celebrate Miles as a character. He's the child of an African-American father, Puerto Rican mother. And it was really, really important to us that anytime a player picked up our game and saw themselves in Miles or one of the people in his life, recognized someone that they care about, that they felt really, really good about that moment of recognition. And they felt like, it made them feel good about themselves and their lives.
Najee, your thoughts as the person who embodied the mask and embodied the suit?
My main thing was just to make him relatable to what Miles was going through at the time. He was just getting out of puberty as a young man and then getting a huge responsibility to take on.
To yes, and what they've already said, it's, how are they flawed? When you're building a character, you want to build them holistically. You want to think about where did they come from? What do they care about? What do they hope for? What are they lying to themselves about? And, looking at The Last of Us Part 2 as an example, so many times our characters were their own worst enemy, were their own greatest antagonists. So how can you create a character that has both light and dark, good and bad, and still make you kind of want to step in their shoes every step of the way? And even if you don't agree with their decisions, understand why they're making those decisions and that those decisions feel valid for them.
Relatability is something that I look for a lot, and authenticity in the characters, and even in the more fantastical the character, the more important that is almost. It's like we're dealing, in Hades with Greek gods and stuff, but the thing that makes them interesting is not their lightning powers, it's their humanity and their flaws and their quirks and their idiosyncrasies. And digging into all of that stuff, I think, and making them as specific as possible, I think is really fun.
Darby, has that conversation changed for you at all in terms of, the basis of a character like Ivor, kind of in the grander scope of the Assassin's Creed world? Has the idea of what makes a good character or a great one changed at all for you?
With Eivor being a pagan from a Norse culture, in a society that's all based around honor and shame rather than like the more sort of monotheistic virtue and sin, we tried to create a character that worries about things that maybe we don't worry about being the ultimate warrior and going to Valhalla and dying on the battlefield, those kinds of things you associate with Vikings. How do we get the player in those shoes, and how do we get you to want to carry out these actions and behave like this character and still be relevant to a more modern audience?
So I'm super excited. We get a chance now to give away our D.I.C.E Award for Outstanding Achievement in Character. And the winner is Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Congratulations, team. Nicely done, Ben and Najee.
Well done,
very,
man.
very cool.
Damn,
Well
Najee, take a bow, man.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. First off, I would like to thank God, because without him, this wouldn't have been possible. And I would also like to thank the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. I would like to say I am very, very honored to be considered with my fellow nominees. I'm thrilled to accept this award on the behalf of all the hardworking people who brought Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales to life. And I want to thank our writers, Ben Arfman and Mary Kenny, our head animator, James Ham, and our stunt crew, Jasuri Booker, Seth Austin, and Ross Constam. And a huge shout out to Jordan Holland, Dominique Batts, Darius Salary, Chris and Michael Carter, Jaharan Jackson, Khalil Dickerson, Sergio Heights, Alex Aligan, and Moses Abedego, and our creative director, Brian Portman. And everyone at Insomniac Games, Marvel Games, and Sony Interactive, thank you all so much.
Hell yeah, Miles Morales!
Woo!
Woo!
Hell yeah, indeed.
just
That's a
watched Spider-Man
great
last
game right
night.
there. Don't listen to Blessing Jr., all right? You know what I mean, Ka? Don't trust this kid.
No, he's too
Thank you.
young. He doesn't know things yet.
He doesn't know anything. There's nothing better in games than getting to play a role in a grand interactive tale, and there's nobody better to say how they do it than the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Story.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Story. Storytelling has so many different forms: dance, books, movies, even sometimes limericks can play themselves into that equation. But what in this medium makes, the storytelling more interesting?
13 Sentinels in particular is really a cohesive love letter to the many stories that came before it. Each character in the game is playing on a distinct influence in media. For example, one route might feel like it's a mystery, one is like a shoujo manga, another is like a thriller. So it really is about, pulling all these unique genres that you might have known of, that you might have experienced yourself, and then fashioning that together into a new experience through 13 Sentinels.
Jake, I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well about, how did you kind of come to the story that you decided to bring to the world, and what was very different in the way that you might have told this if it wasn't in video game format as opposed to the way it was?
My team, we really like working at a very we really like making stories that unfold at a very slow pace, like this one that we made, and they give a lot of space for things to kind of resonate while you have the player doing what seem like mundane tasks. Things can be kind of echoing or something. So I really enjoyed finding that kind of openness.
In Ghosts, Jin is kind of forced to abandon his honor in order to win this kind of big war. His change into Ghost and subsequent kind of moral, conflict with his uncle was kind of central to his journey. How important was it for the overall story that Jin kind of faced these consequences and, in his actions, that they were kind of really meant there to kind of save his people?
The entire narrative, not just Jin's narrative, but every side character's story exists to tell a different side of what that would be like. The prime relationship is between Jin, our hero, and his uncle, who's the personification of kind of the status quo. Really and truly, it only works because you like the uncle and you don't want to lose that relationship. You don't want to lose that person who you care about because that's the person you thought you wanted to be.
How important was it to kind of lean into those conversations around family with Hades as well, Greg?
It's kind of like at the heart of the entire concept for us that really, not so secretly, Hades is a story about family, and the kind of dynamics, the complicated dynamics that can happen with kind of the underlying idea that if even the gods have such messy family relationships, then what hope do any of us mortals have?
Ellie and Abby were entangled in an intertwining story. How difficult was it to build that story so well and keep the players so completely engaged as you've done?
In this instance, it was like, oh, how can we tell two stories of people that through circumstances have become antagonistic towards each other, but are not necessarily better or worse morally than the other. They just have come from different places, and their stories just have placed them at odds. So then you have like the meeting, you have like the inciting incident, you have all these things that you could throw on the board pretty quickly, and then you start brainstorming as not just writers but as a team, like what would be cool to play.
Now I get to do my favorite part of these conversations, which is give away a lovely DICE award. We're going to give away our Outstanding Achievement in Story award, and the DICE award goes to The Last of Us 2.
What an honor, especially like as we're here chatting and I'm like thinking about each one of these games that have not only told compelling stories, but have done it each in a different creative way within our medium. Like I really think this could have gone to anyone. So just shout out to everybody here. It's an honor to be amongst you guys. I want to, I guess, call it the narrative team, my co-writer Hallie Gross, and then Josh Scher and Ryan James, who helped me co-write this massive game. And then really everyone at Naughty Dog. We all work, it's a collaborative medium. And it like we've been talking about here, it's so many of the ideas come from either specific brainstorms or just like a chat by the water cooler, or just trying to make the best game we can with the tools that we have, and trying to fumble our way through this. So on behalf of everyone at Naughty Dog, just thank you.
Well deserved, Naughty Dog.
Indeed. They did the best. Let's just say it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be another Zelda year too, Jess, where they just get everything, you think?
Get everything? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, let's find out. We got a lot of
Let's
awards
find
to
out.
give
We got a bunch of script to read through. Let's see what happens. And as we mentioned before, remember that the full discussions will be available over at interactive.org very soon.
Next up is Action Game of the Year. The nominees for Action Game of the Year are Half-Life Alyx, Hades, Doom Eternal, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Neo 2, I've never gotten to actually give out an award at this show. Hold on, I gotta open my virtual envelope. And the winner is Hades.
Thank you so much. Yeah, wow, this is a huge honor. You know, in the past, our games have been praised for their outstanding art, music, writing, atmosphere. So it's a huge compliment that in Hades, the gameplay, I feel, rose to that same level of recognition. So yeah, I mean, as everyone at the table here knows, making games takes so much difficult cross-disciplinary effort and so many trade-offs that it's really hard to ever stand out in one or more than one area. So especially to be recognized by our peers in the game industry is incredibly humbling.
Congratulations on both this award and stealing hundreds of hours all of us could have spent with family. And now you gotta ask yourself, Jess.
Yeah.
Is it Hades that's gonna be the Zelda? Who's gonna be the Zelda? Who's Breath of the Wild? Is it gonna be Last of Us?
If we're going off what we know right now as we're reading through this, I think maybe Hades. I think it'll probably be a pretty decent balance between Last of Us 2 and Hades, but I think that's gonna be mostly just them.
Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, I'm still waiting for the award for most abs because we know who would win that easy. That's the easy one.
Yeah.
Greg, right?
That's a keg, not a six-pack. After that is Adventure Game of the Year, and the nominees are Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Kentucky Route Zero TV Edition, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, The Last of Us Part 2, and the winner is Ghost of Tsushima.
It's obviously there's so many great games out there, and we're just all lucky to be in the same industry making such cool stuff together. Especially in this category, there's some stiff competition, some amazing games. So just thank you so much. You know, our team is incredibly proud of the game and also super thankful for everyone that's helped make it. So it's been a crazy, awesome journey for us, and we're just super thankful.
An amazing game. They wrote stuff here. I don't even know look at it. What an amazing game Ghost was. Are you kidding me right now? How much fun did you have with that, Jess?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I still, I still have some time because I got sucked into a different game. But my two choices would have been Valhalla or Tsushima, and I'd have to go with Tsushima. I think it was the right choice.
Yeah, Ka?
Agreed. Best grass outside of Portland.
Yeah, Sucker Punch, great job.
The way that they were super creative with it and pushed the envelope on like with the black and white mode and all that other stuff. I mean, I really felt like I was playing, I was kind of like in a Lady Snowblood situation. I was like, oh, this is taking me back. Loved it.
All right, sorry, back on book.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, even awards that are without a full interview tonight have a roundtable discussion posted over the next couple of months over on interactive.org. And speaking of amazing, Greg Way,
That was a really good Greg way. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And
Well, they wrote that
speaking
one. It's not as bad as my usual ones.
And speaking of amazing, I had the pleasure of speaking with the nominees for Mobile Game of the Year. Take a look.
Welcome to the 24th Annual D.I.C.E conversation around mobile games of the year. Everyone nominated for Mobile Game of the Year has beautiful games that they've created, and they help to push the boundaries of what we're able to do in mobile games. The first thing I want to kind of dig into is more kind of a general question for all of you. Where has the craft of creating games on the mobile platform gone over the past 10 years? And where would you like to see it kind of move in the next 5 or so?
If we look back 10, 15 years ago, we probably could never really predicted, how far gaming on this platform would come. I don't see it going away anytime soon. And so all the skill and the creativity on this platform is only going to evolve over time, and the breadth at which people can build things is going to expand. So I think it's actually one of the most exciting platforms.
Just such a wide audience, such a wide number of people have phones. We wanted to make the kind of games that everyone could appreciate. And I think a lot of people probably on this panel feel the same way.
As the technology, evolves year on year, we as developers have got to keep up with it. And what I love is that, this game was made and it just happens to be on a mobile. It could have been, on a larger scale, but the immediacy of mobile phones means, like you said, everyone can have it and have that experience. And the technology means, it looks beautiful on something that's in your hand.
And that means that we're able to tell different kinds of stories than we were 5 or 10 years ago. I'm really excited to know what everyone else's story is, the stories we haven't heard yet from the kinds of people who haven't previously been a part of the games community.
One of the things that I'm really interested in people that are really sort of so experienced with mobile titles, I'm slightly in awe of, is how you kind of get to a point where you can go, I can give you a totally rewarding, completely rounded gaming experience that you can be in of and out of again in literally 3, 5, 6 minutes, and you still feel that sense of completion. You still feel like you've achieved something in there. And for me, that's one of the real art forms of mobile development that I like I say, kind of coming from slightly from the outside, I'm in such kind of awe of people that can get that sense of, I've really achieved something here, and I've done it in literally minutes, and I'm out again. And I think that's a really remarkable thing that happens.
I'm trying to think of what that means for a game like Song of Bloom as well, with a constantly kind of shifting, unique experience that you felt like you were kind of riding along, the players riding along with you. What did you kind of expect players to kind of most dig into or feel like, that so much was going to be happening underneath the surface? How did you kind of make sure that they were kind of capturing and getting into all the good meat of the game without, getting stuck or getting, too lost in the space? I'm curious about that from you.
That I really wanted that the player is motivated to explore it and feel playful to just play with it. But instead, they just waited for instructions, which I just didn't want to provide. So I just open up a space, and that space lets you do anything. So you can interact with it via touch, and something happens, not necessarily the right thing, but something happens.
Again, thank you all for sharing thoughts on everything that you've done in the games that you put out into the world, because they're all fantastic. And now we get to tell you all who gets to win the award for Best Mobile Game of the Year. And our winner is Legends of Runeterra. Congratulations, Jeff.
Wow. Gosh, I mean, that's amazing. It's definitely an honor to be recognized by D.I.C.E, and honestly to be up here with such great company. So thank you all very much. I'm floored, because honestly, our mission has always been to kind of create that card game that celebrated players' creativity and cleverness, like I talked about, and showcase these rich stories in the League of Legends universe. And it's tough. I think we're entering a genre that has a lot of different stigmas about it. But I'm really excited how we've been able to bring that universe to our players and honestly bring joy, hopefully, to a lot of players' lives, especially during this crazy time. I guess I'll say thanks to Riot and all the writers who supported us along the way here. I honestly feel like we couldn't have made this game anywhere else, and I feel really proud to be there and to represent them. And honestly, congrats to our amazing team who worked on Legends of Runeterra and their dedication towards, making our players' dreams come true. Where, I think a lot of us grew up playing card games, and we were able to kind of make our dream game. And thanks so much, D.I.C.E, and we really appreciate it. It's quite an honor.
Amazing work.
Yeah. These roundtables look like they were so much fun, Kyle.
Oh, they were a blast. I got to meet so many wonderful folks, and they were all brilliant. It was super cool. You should go check them out at www.interactive.org.
Ooh, nicely done.
Damn, he's a professional.
Dang, he just
All right.
wrote that in there himself.
Look at that.
Next up, these nominees for Outstanding Achievement for an Independent Game embodied the idea that small teams with limited budgets can make great things. Here are the highlights.
For each of you developing with really small teams, what were the most challenging parts, and how did you get those games across the finish line?
Yeah, right. Well, we decided to release the game in episodes, and a big part of that, it wasn't our initial vision for the game, but a big part of that decision was about exactly this, like maintaining, feeding the audience, nurturing the audience, at the same time as we were talking about kind of trying to keep our team alive, or just like trying to keep the audience alive. And it was really hard for us to share teasers and things like that because we were very sensitive about not spoiling these sort of moments of novelty or surprise that were kind of load bearing in our story. And so it was really hard to figure out how to keep in touch with the audience. And
we wanted to see what we could do with a really focused pre-production period, and then planned to launch into early access to try a new process of development for us, and to really try to refine the game with the help of an audience and make it as good as we could with the input of players.
So much of I'd say the first half of the first 2/3 of your project, you're creating ideas and you're adding all this stuff. And then at some point you gotta you're adding ideas without knowing where it's going, and it's figuring out where it's gonna end up that allows you to then cut everything and get to, okay, here is our end point, or here is the most important part of the game.
when we did the game jam, Fahmi Hasni, back then he was our marketing guy. He wanted to make a game that emulates the feeling of holding a warm drink and watching the rain while listening to music and talking to friends, in a coffee shop.
We had this, as I mentioned earlier, we had this physics system, every pixel is simulated, and we knew that it's a lot of fun. It was fun to toy with. There have been these powder toy browser games for a long time that haven't had a gameplay element, but have been still a lot of fun to play with. So we knew that it was fun. We noticed that destroying the world, transmuting materials to acid and seeing everything melt was fun to see. But we ran into the problem multiple times where we realized that, if the game is just about, I don't know, you are a living explosion and you explode everything every single time, that stops being interesting. And actually realizing that giving restrictions require the player to be more creative.
We are at one of my favorite parts. My favorite part in general of doing these wonderful conversations is now I get to give an award away to one of you amazing folks. Hey, our winner for Outstanding Achievement for an indie game for the 24th Annual D.I.C.E Awards goes to Hades.
Yeah, geez. Thank you so much to D.I.C.E. This is amazing. And it's been a wild ride since Hades released into 1.0 in September. I mean, I want to say thank you to the incredible team of people that I work with at Supergiant, who are some of the best people I know and some of the most talented people I've ever met in my whole life. And I get to work with them every day. So that's awesome. I would like to say that I'm very grateful to our players for being so incredibly supportive and effusive and really just coming along for the ride. Players who joined us in early access and the players who've joined us since, and to see the reaction to Hades kind of blow up in a way that none of our previous games have to a degree has been really incredible, especially in sort of a pretty dark time, a dark period in the world. It's nice to see people having things to say about Hades, that it helped them through something, it helped them cope with something, it helped them deal with it was a mirror for their daily life. All that kind of stuff was really incredible for me personally to see. So I feel incredibly honored to receive this award on behalf of Supergiant. So thank you so much.
Hades again, which honestly makes me want to play Hades again. And reinforces my opinion earlier on in the show.
They're starting to run away with it. Let's see what happens. Ooh, what's going to go on? What do you think, Twitch chat? Oh, Wait, is it over there? I don't know. Hey. We still have a lot of awards to go, so let's see what the nominees for Immersive Reality Technical Achievement had to say.
Carrie and Nate, you know, I think the games that you both have made have the kind of most direct, you know, connection or analog to the kind of more traditional game space in some of the things you've done with Mario Kart and Half-Life Alyx. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what that process looks like as well, making this experience very, very singular and different compared to what a kind of traditional version of it might have been.
The ability of the teams to put in mixed reality elements to really bring that experience to life, a video game experience to life in a very mundane setting, you know, in your kitchen or wherever you set it up, I think was the focus from the start, and I think they just did a fantastic job of pulling it off.
Knowing that we were making another Half-Life game that people had been waiting for some time, we were constantly asking ourselves, does this need to be in VR? Why are we making this a VR game? What makes it special to be in VR? So we were continually focusing on how to make the platform suitable for the game and how to make the game something that you could only experience in VR. So I think the platform was really great for driving a lot of creative decisions that, you know, they've been making first-person shooters on flat screen games for years, and sort of having new challenges to solve really gets the team, you know, creatively energized, which I think shows in the final product.
Yeah, for us, it's a lot about media specificity. So there's obviously things that you can do in a simulated environment that aren't replicatable in real life, you know, whether physics or even the way that bodies can be modified and perspectives can shift.
Paper Beast is also in that space as well, Eric. I feel like you have a very, very, very specific kind of way that you've kind of tackled the game that you've made. What has been some of the conversations that you've all had in terms of, you know, comparing the game that you've done to a traditional one?
What I love with VR is the interaction with physics system, because there is something very believable in VR, the feeling of the space and be able to touch things. It's really something that I wanted to put in highlight in a Paper Beast, and especially about the wildlife and how the player can be connected to the wildlife and play with simulated wildlife.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about, you know, what those experiences are that kind of replicate or are so different than their real life counterparts. I think, Robin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I think we're really fortunate in that we've been able to be really iterative, but I think time and again we found that our first, and I think this happens a lot in VR, but our first sort of idea turns out to be totally wrong or backwards, and it's only in trying it that you realize that. But yeah, it's pretty much trial and error. But if we hadn't had those trials and those errors, then, you know, we'd be in a totally different place. It's part of the process that I really enjoy, even if there is you know, some challenge there.
You all have made some fantastic games, and now I get the pleasure of giving out an award. The winner of the Immersive Reality Technical Achievement is Half-Life Alyx. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you. Well, geez, it's an honor. You know, we put a lot of time and effort and love into this game, just like all game devs do, and you never know until it's done if it's really going to be something that people are receptive to. So we're just super thrilled that people enjoyed playing it, and that we were able to produce something of really high quality. So thank you very much.
Great work, Valve.
Totally. Well deserved. Half-Life Alyx, very, very impressive.
All right, now that we've heard about the technical side of immersive reality games, let's keep up the theme by talking to the nominees for Immersive Reality Game of the Year.
You know, with the variety of games nominated here, you know, what are some of the common tenets that you all kind of share across this medium and across the games here?
It's pretty clear that in all of these games, there has been a lot of thought into how to keep the player immersed and how to reduce gameplay that is unnecessarily pulling you out of the immersion, out of actually being there. Some of them are pretty different. Like Down the Rabbit Hole is clearly, it's a third person, it's a diorama game, so you're looking at the action happening before your eyes in a third person manner. But then you can also go into first person.
I think when VR first started, the first year or two of VR titles, everyone was very focused on how do we do a bunch of stuff that we've been doing for a long time in games? Like, how do people interact with a menu? How do people pick up an object? And now we make things and watch people play them, and then we go back to the drawing board and say, why didn't that work out? And we make changes and we put it in front of the next person. And our core development process is one of it's just built around playtesting.
There is a sensory aspect of our game. We can really feel the space, the world in a very different and very physical way in VR, and especially with the audio. The audio is really something so important in VR because it can make things believable. Things that are not believable can be really believable with the matching of the audio and the visual. The whole game here in this room has this common point.
Barry, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about some of the kind of cross-pollination that you see in that space too.
Part of the fascination of games has got to be the fantasy of it. The ability to create a fantasy world and then sell it to people and have them inhabit it. And I think that VR itself just sort of attenuates that feeling, that video game, that magical feeling that video games can give to people. And I think a lot of the really successful games in VR manage to do that while maintaining the feeling that this is a traditional game. But I would say embracing the fantasy of it is a big pull. It is the fact that the game is better than a flat game is what makes us want to make these games.
Certainly quality and immersion are, I think, hallmarks of the group of games that are here, but also, VR in general. It's, presence is a word often used, immersion. I also like to think of it as inhabiting, the not just the world, which I think is where we're at right now. The thing that I think I'm excited about for the future, sorry, I'm jumping out here, for VR is that there's an opportunity to inhabit people, a character, in a way that hasn't really been experienced in games before. And I think I'm excited to see where VR can take us on that front.
Well, the beauty of all of that is now I get to give an award away for all the hard work that has happened within this space. So again, thank you all for hanging out and sharing so many wonderful thoughts. But our winner of the Immersive Reality Game of the Year for this year's DICE Awards is Half-Life Alyx. Congratulations.
I'm glad that people had a lot of fun playing it. It was a lot of fun to work on it. We always joked inside the company that it was the only game we've ever worked on where we're more afraid to announce it than we were to actually release it. And the reaction from customers to that announcement was better than we hoped, and it was really gratifying to see people have so much fun with it. And it's great to see people still, VR is a medium where lots of people are still getting into it every day, picking up new hardware. There's lots of different hardware they can get, and we tried to make sure they could, whatever they got, they could play it. And so, still hearing from people who are trying it out now and enjoying it, and that's a lot of fun. So thank you.
Another Valve win. Excellent, you guys.
We appreciate you, Valve. Congratulations on this, but please slow down with the Steam sales. You know what I mean? How many are you guys doing this? You see something, you buy it, you put it in the library, you never play it, you own it on another platform, but you got to get it because it's such a great deal. I
do that every single time. I have a library full of games that I've played probably never.
Playtime 0.
All right, so coming up, we have Fighting Game of the Year. The nominees are EA UFC 4.
And here's another head kick. Winner by knockout.
Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. Them's fighting herds. And the winner is Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I couldn't be more excited about this year's palette of fighting games that are out there. Like Amari said, we have one end of the spectrum is farm animals fighting, and then we have the Mortal Kombat, and then we have the most realistic, and then the Grand Blue Fantasy. Such a cool story of it, coming from a mobile game and becoming a really solid fighter in its own right is, like I said, just these palette of games. It's just really great to be included with this group. So I congratulate everybody who worked on the whole palette of games. It's been great year.
Ka, I know you've played a bunch of this. Why is it the winner?
Well, you have to understand, first of all, Raiden is the best character in the game. He has always been the best character. #buff Raiden. Also, please, for the love of God, let's ban every Scorpion player on the planet. Please remove them from everything that has ever lived. And also, down ones are the best. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
I was going to say, this man took the stage and had comments. Are you listening, Ed Boon? Are you listening right now? Congratulations, everybody over at NetherRealm. Our next category is Role-Playing Game of the Year. The nominees are Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona 5 Royal, Wasteland 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and the winner is Final Fantasy VII Remake.
はい、ありがとうございます。数ある中から受賞したこと非常に光栄に思います。FF7 リメイク自体の展開っていうのは今後も続いていきますので、また次回作でもこの場に戻ってこれるように頑張っていきますので、はい、期待してください。今日はありがとうございます。
Chobot, does this one hit for you?
Yeah, it kind of does. I also really enjoyed Persona 5 Royal, so I think I would give it to Final Fantasy VII Remake a bit more, only because I'm still bitter about how my first Persona 5 lost my save file halfway through.
Sure,
So, I'm a little bitter.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think that's a worthy win for sure.
And of course, remember, ladies and gentlemen, the full roundtable interview will be up in the upcoming months on interactive.org. You got a reason to come back every couple of weeks.
We promise you'll enjoy them.
Please watch them.
Don't you want to see Ka back next year? If you watch these, they will have to bring him back next year.
Heading back into our next discussion, I virtually sat down with the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Original Music Composition.
Let's roll the tape.
No one uses tape anymore, Greg. What are you
You
talking
roll,
about?
then hit play. Well, you press play. Someone is back there with an Avid or some kind of encoder. I guess they've actually already done it. This is all old, isn't it?
When you're kind of starting the process of scoring a game, what aspect of that is kind of the most important and kind of most valued part in the process when you're kind of thinking about what this music should evoke and how it should kind of connect to the player?
I feel like each game has a kind of basic rhythm and speed and feel to it. And that's the first kind of thing I'm looking for. And then when you add the art, like that adds a whole nother different level of choices that you can make. Like I choose my instrument palettes based on what I'm seeing, but I've chosen the speed and the pace and the rhythm of the music based on the gameplay.
If you have music in your game and for me, it even like a tempo thing, if that's not right, the game feels awkward. It really has the ability to, I feel like, slow a game down and almost create a sense of boredom, or if it's too fast, it's maybe can become a little silly as well.
I'm kind of curious to hear from you, Austin, about the initial question of just, what kind of aspects of that are kind of most important to the process for you two?
It's always better to be in early, and it's definitely become more normal lately. But if there is one advantage to coming in late, it's that they've pretty well figured out what the game is. And because in the case of Pathless, there's a lot of mechanics that came and went, and there's a lot of content of the game that the music was sort of wrapping itself around, and then would suddenly realize that it had Thanos, and I was suddenly grasping the air. There goes 40 minutes of music that we just don't need anymore. And I don't mind that. I like that as part of the process, but it's obviously, it just means that you kind of, you take it as it is. You just have to roll with the parameters of being there that long.
There's some really clever twists and turns within Little Orpheus, and the music kind of plays, differently depending upon, what the player is doing and what's happening in the particular parts of those moments. Was the music kind of composed to fit each one of those specific kind of gameplay sections, or was it something where there was kind of a general feel that kind of was the foundation, and then you kind of finessed those other parts to go along with it?
Set pieces like the chases or the next time on thing that you get at the end of every episode in Little Orpheus, they were pretty set lengths. Whereas there are some other places where, it's standard kind of exploration music, the bringing in a mood and that kind of thing. Or there's moments where kind of doing both, where we're leading up to a set piece moment.
Brad, the question I want to dig in with you is more around, like, when you're thinking about building that tension, how important is it that, in a game like this where combat is a huge focus of it, that you kind of are being, you're bringing familiar kinds of parts that people kind of understand, oh, we have some heavy drums here that kind of, coordinate with some of the stuff, or, there are other parts of that mix that kind of blend into it.
I mean, as far as tension is concerned, it's really tricky, because that was actually one thing that we were kind of experimenting with even early on, was how can we make the game feel tense without just the kind of cliche drums, more drums equals more tense. I think our composers definitely got that and did a great job of utilizing Western components like strings to create tension. But then also we had this other additional two really beautiful kind of unique palettes to work with, which were, the traditional Japanese instruments and even some traditional Mongolian instruments.
We are now at the really, really fun part of our hanging out and our conversation, is where I get to give an award away, which is always super fun. So again, thank you all for hanging with us. And the Outstanding Achievement in Original Music Composition Award goes to Ghosts of Tsushima. Congratulations. Congrats. Nicely done.
All credit has to go absolutely to Ume and Shigeru Umebayashi and Ilan Ishikari, our composers, as well as the amazing music team that took that music and just brought it to life within our world. Pete Scaturo, Keith Leary, Andrew Baresh, I'm gonna forget some people. Nick Mastriani, Adam Kalibjian, Monty Mudd, Sonia Coronado, Kelly Boynton, Bill Henstepat, Chad Cannon, and probably some others that I am forgetting. But it was a huge, long process, and those people and more were very much involved for years to make it happen. So I'm super proud of all of them, and thank you. It's quite an honor.
Congratulations on the win.
And now, do you hear that? Because it's time for our roundtable with the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Audio Design. I'm sorry for that transition.
With the variety of games we see nominated here, what are some of the common tenets you find across the games in this category?
I'd say each of these games has an exceptional personality to them. And I think that personality is very much kind of presented sonically, from the more kind of cartooniness of Sackboy to this kind of otherworldly beauty of Dreams or Ori, to the kind of gritty realness of Tilu and Ghost. they all kind of live and die by how the audio kind of matches the gameplay, the tone, the feel.
I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts about that, Rob, about, thinking about not only these games, but the game that you worked on, the kind of, breadth and depth of the complexity of kind of, how do you make sure that everything gets its due?
The best audio is often the stuff you don't notice. It's the stuff that just makes it feel right. That feeling of immersion often comes from audio and from sound design. And then music obviously is a huge part of the emotional component of things. And games have a unique challenge with music in that we're trying to pull the emotional heartstrings when the player has almost always control of what's going on in the game. So that presents unique challenges across the board. And as technology evolves, we get more tools to play with to make that a lot better.
Speaking of unique challenges, this one is for you, Tom. How do you gauge the success of your audio design with such a complex system made for all kinds of creators?
So I think we just made ourselves the first customers of it, because I think with all of us, that's the gauge. First of all, you satisfy yourself first, because otherwise your own sort of creative compass is not aligned. But then also we spent a lot of time like giving it to people who, as I've just said, who literally have no idea what to do. And I think it's a very tricky balance. It's been a tricky balance, but I hope people get an enjoyment out of it that they haven't previously expected.
I'm kind of curious about that in terms of the work that you've done, Jay, with Sackboy: A Big Adventure. You all used a host of kind of subtle sound effects that also kind of create haptic feedback. I'm curious about what the design philosophy behind that audio kind of helped players navigate and succeed in their adventures that they kind of gone through in that game.
It's kind of funny actually, because coming off of previous Little Big Planets, we've kind of gone the other way, having to focus on creating sound effects that the players can use in their own creations, to, in this one being the first opportunity to actually, basically create bespoke sound effects throughout the entire game. In terms of design philosophy, I guess there was a big focus really on how we can bring a level of harmony to the experience. A key part of that being that we really wanted to look at ways in which we could integrate sound effects much more closely with the music.
Christopher, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts around Ori, and since that game has such a unique look in how it kind of presents itself, how does the kind of audio design bring more dimension to such a really beautiful environment?
There is a lot of dimension to the game, to the depth of the art and the graphics. I mean, it's just phenomenal looking. But in its gameplay, it's essentially a 2D game. It's a side scroller, or it's side and up and down. So we actually did take advantage of the benefits of spatial audio, which allows us to actually add a depth, so we could actually kind of create the Z dimension, and we could sort of surround the player with a lot of details that you don't necessarily see and you don't need to see.
It is now time to give away our award, and the D.I.C.E award for outstanding achievement in audio design goes to Ghost of Tsushima.
Awesome!
Congratulations!
Well deserved.
Jeez, wow. That's a huge honor, and again, especially to be nominated among all these people. I will say until I'm blue in the face that this was absolutely a tremendous team effort. Both the Sucker Punch audio team, the Sony sound design team, Sony music and dialogue teams, our external partners at Molinaire who did our cinematics, our QA team, and everybody at Sucker Punch as well, because we've got a really great team there, and I have bribed them into listening for audio and giving feedback about audio, and so it's just such a tremendous achievement for all of us, and what a big honor. Thank you so much.
Good music, good sound, good Ghost of Tsushima. How was that? Do we like that one better?
I like that.
Okay, good. We'll take it. And before we keep going, I just want to take a second to again remind everyone that the full roundtable discussions will be posted on interactive.org soon. You're going to want to watch them, right, Ka?
Yeah, gotta watch it. A lot of me, a lot of people, a lot of stuff.
That's 100% why you want to watch it.
People watch
No,
it. Yeah.
not
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
Not me.
No, whatever. And now it's time to get back into the awards with Racing Game of the Year. We wanted to talk to them more, but they kept rubber banding and getting too far ahead. All right. The nominees are Dirt 5, F1 2020, Mario Kart Live, and the winner is Mario Kart Live.
Of course, very, very different games. Mario Kart Live is a strange category of its own, but I do want to call out both the development team at NCL and the team at Development Studios, who just did an amazing job on this. The director, Dan Doppus, and then the producers, Mr. Tamori, Mr. Matsunaga, and Nicholas Rep. Complicated project, and I think, we're just really happy to see people enjoying it, really happy to see the component that really is the most important part of this game, which is the user making courses in their homes. We're just really happy to see people enjoying the game like that and creating playgrounds in their own places. So really, really thankful for this award, and happy to see people having fun with the game.
You turned our homes into a video game level, and we salute you for it. Jess, did you play this with Emerson? Was this something you guys were racing around the house with?
Out of that list, that's the only one I've played.
Yeah. Did you have fun with it?
Yeah,
did he have fun with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I don't know.
Well,
yes.
Moving on. We are proud to present Sports Game of the Year. The nominees are EA Sports FIFA 21, MLB The Show 20, NBA 2K21, PGA Tour 2K21, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and the winner is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, it really is an honor for me to be able to represent like all of the developers across the company who work on the title. They're amazingly talented, and they apply that talent like so passionately to this game. They really deserve all of the thanks that I could possibly give them. Across the board, everyone involved in the title. I think it's worth calling out Tony Hawk as well. I mean, the game wouldn't be what it is without Tony. His feedback and attention to detail and collaboration throughout the whole development is really important. It makes a big difference. Again, big thanks to the original skaters, the new skaters. It wouldn't be this game without them. They're all such incredible athletes. And then finally, and this, I'm sure you guys all know this, but I want to say it because it's really important. A special thanks to the family and the friends and the fans of the teams. It's so like the level of support and encouragement that the developers get from people around them. It's unseen, but it's so crucial to making games. And so I just wanted to make that point as well. So huge thanks to the team, huge thanks to friends and family as well.
A blast from the past. It came back. The nostalgia swept over everyone. Tim Geddes still won't shut up about this.
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of blinked out because I felt like I was in math class with all those numbers, and I was just like.
Well, if you divide the square root of 2K21
like,
plus the 1 plus 2, you're like, what's going on? I don't even know.
The award goes to the Pythagorean theorem.
Our next nominee discussion is for Outstanding Technical Achievement. Roll the tape.
The games you've all built are extremely technical in the way that they have been built and the way that they kind of work. Sebastian, I'm really curious about that, especially for a game like yours. What were some of the things that you were kind of the most excited to tackle from a technical standpoint?
It's the first time at Asobo that we did a game where you don't invent something. We have to just look at things, or you look at clouds, or you look at rain, or stuff like that. We spend a lot of time also go flying, right, and understand how a plane flies and all the different things.
You make it sound so easy, but there's got to be so much involved in how to communicate that sense of flying to the player.
So what we learned in flying is something they teach pilots, is to be humble and that you always learn. You're never done discovering new things.
David, what have been some of the things that have really surprised you from a technical standpoint?
I was surprised that I would keep seeing things that I didn't realize were made in Dreams. And I would have to check. And I thought, okay, now I've recalibrated. I get there's this trick they've figured where they can abuse the font renderer thing to do a thing effects. Okay. And then there's another thing that people figured out. So yeah, so just being, it reached a level of sophistication where I could be kind of rewarded, like have this return on investment where, you know, our community are making things that can truly surprise me and truly, like make me really want to play them.
What were some of the kind of biggest achievements that you were kind of able to kind of get into in comparison to the first game?
We did so much stuff in Last of Us 2 on the AI front on making the enemies react in a more dynamic way and having them understand the space that they lived in and really like giving them just some personality, which we'd always wanted to do and we tried to do, we've done some of, but I feel like this time we finally made it.
I'm also extremely proud of the work the team did for accessibility. I think that was something that we pushed, or a couple of our team members were really adamant about it, got the studio on board. I mean, we did that for the other games too, but really took it to a new level for Last of Us Part 2.
With Mario Kart Live, where did the inspiration come from to do that?
Overcoming the actual individual technical hurdles, I'm sure, is a story in its own right, because, you know, you talk about UGC, this is people's homes, you know, are the UGC. I remember personally bringing one of the cars home and measuring the shag on my carpet, you know, it's like things that you don't really expect to do, you know, in software development.
What was your approach to, you know, putting all these systems in, having them work so well together, and then having that be the package that we wind up getting when we got a chance to play it?
Did want the world to be beautiful. That was actually important for us. Japan's a beautiful place, and you really wanted to be able to capture that. It adds this sort of tension, you know, that you've got this really ugly story that's happening on top of this really beautiful backdrop, and keeping that in balance through the whole game was a challenge for us. That it wasn't too pretty and it wasn't too grim, you know, that you always have that juxtaposition, and making that work. Then, you know, lots of tech, right? So it's lots of particles and wind and, you know, all kinds of stuff that's happening so that you can have that level of beauty and still have it be in an open world game, right? Where you can go anywhere and do anything. You have these massive sight lines everywhere. So we had to reinvent a lot of stuff to make that work after doing open world games that weren't as big.
I mean, you and the team and everyone in this room has made some bangers of games this year and have made some fantastic pieces of art. And I get the pleasure of giving away an award to talk about and recognize that. We are going to give away our D.I.C.E Award for Outstanding Technical Achievement. And the winner is Dreams.
Hey.
Congrats. Congrats.
Wow, the thing I've loved from this conversation is how whenever we're talking about technology, we're talking about the vision that technology is empowering. That's what's super exciting. That's why games are so wonderful. It's a collision of the whimsy of art and the science and the maths kind of colliding together to make something greater. I'm just proud to be able to stand virtually in a room with these people who have all done amazing things, and I'm proud of the amazing things that my team have done, the many years of toil. So yes, thank you. This is cool.
Dreams is such a great tool for game makers old and new. Awesome work from the team.
All right, let's keep the show in motion with the outstanding achievement in animation.
Oh my gosh, please no more puns. Or honestly more. I love puns. I can't lie. They're my favorite thing. I giggle every time.
I'd like for each of you to tell me a little bit about how you developed and landed on the style of animation that makes your game unique.
中でのその、こう新しい作品っていうところで、昔の特徴っていうのを、クラウドたちの動きっていうのを参考にもしつつ、そのままだとやっぱりこうなんですかね、新しい新鮮さがないと思うんで、今回の今の現代の表現の中で、さらにその、新鮮な驚きっていうのを加えるために、ちょっと、目指したところとしては、すごいフォトリアルな完全なフォトリアルではなくて、ちょっとリアルな頭身だしリアルなキャラクターなんだけれども、どちらかというとその完全なリアルではなく、若干アニメ的な要素というか、
We wanted to make sure that Miles felt authentic and felt different from Peter, and bringing in this character that isn't as experienced just creates a new style of animation that a lot of times we don't see in games, where the character feels inexperienced, and through his actions, through gameplay and through cinematics, you can feel the sense of him trying to learn as he goes and feeling the insecurities, whether he's doing a venom punch and he has the reaction that it affects him, it hurts his hand when he does these things.
We really try to push like the squash and stretch throughout the game, and it's not, squash and stretch isn't something that you see in a lot of video games, and I think part of that is because it's really difficult to do, because you need to be able to, you want it to feel, the game to feel responsive, and you want to be able to have smooth blends and transitions, and if the character's in like a crazy stretch pose, it's complicated to do. But I think Ori as a character is like a really good design for that, because it's a simple design. It's kind of like a big head, pear-shaped body, long ears, long tail, and it's got springy legs.
So for us, really kind of pushing the groundedness and the realism of the animation was a big goal that we had.
It's also like that style benefits the story, like to just make the players immerse and make sure they identify with the characters they're playing. But it also creates a huge challenge with design, where like you have all these grounded animations, all the realistic style, but you still have to marry it with like the design and the responsiveness.
Alexander, I'd love to ask you, could you talk a little bit about the studio's inspiration and the unique animation in the game, and how did you go about accomplishing your look?
In terms of animation, we try to go with what comes to us naturally, and that is informed by so many things that inspired us throughout the years, like Ghibli, of course. A lot of movies, comics, video games, both 3D and 2D. If we're speaking about the process through which we make our animations, although we do some traditional frame-by-frame animation, we also use tools like 2D rigs and deformers to help our animation production. In that sense, we're more inspired by TV shows like Hilda on Netflix.
Now's the best time of the conversation, where I get to give away our D.I.C.E award. Again, thank you all for being a part of this and for spending some time with us today. Our D.I.C.E award for the outstanding achievement in animation for this year goes to The Last of Us 2.
Congrats, guys.
Just to point out, it's just an extraordinary honor to be recognized by our peers. This award means just a special amount because of that. It's, just all of our fellow nominees, you guys are incredible. We're huge fans of your work. Making games is hard. I think we all, in our own way, in all our own styles, like really understand that. And none of it would be possible without the passion and dedication of so many different people. And for us, our co-presidents, Evan Wells and Neil Druckmann, the trust that you've given us, the opportunity you give us to push boundaries is so appreciated. My co-pilots, Almudena, Eric, McCall, I couldn't ask for better partners. And to our animation team at Naughty Dog and VASG, who poured their heart into every single frame, like, it's so appreciated. And just our whole studio, our engineers, designers, character teams that all work together to just allow us to do this kind of thing. And to our Last of Us community who have our back and encourage us along the way and afterwards, you're who we do all this for.
Great work, although I will tell you one thing, The Last of Us 2 animated my tear ducts.
Leave those kind of jokes to me. All right, just let me look like the moron here, Jess. All right, you stay, don't worry about it. A sad game indeed. We're only a handful of awards away from the end of the show, and we've got some amazing people to talk to, including the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction.
Jason, I'm kind of curious about that from your perspective. What are some of the tools and talents you kind of brought to that space to make this very, very special game?
One of our goals early on was also not to be just completely realistic. You know, we played around with, you know, photogrammetry and stuff like that. And in the end, it's just for us and for our game, we wanted a little bit softer background. And, you know, instead of, you know, representing a fern forest with, you know, ferns and grass and weeds and trees that are dead and trees that are alive, we just said, how about we just do a, you know, dominant species of just ferns, you know, really, really bright, vibrant greens. So people remember the fern place. First playable, you know, that we shared with our Japanese colleagues, we were like, the game is not green enough. They're like, it needs to be more green. And you know, then I looked back and I was like, oh yeah, it's just like, it doesn't have as much vibrancy as you can imagine. And, you know, and therefore, you know, you look at the game now, it's incredibly lush and rich. And so I certainly thank them for that.
Daniel, I'm kind of curious when it comes to the art and animation within Ori and how well those parts kind of complement the game so well. You know, I'm sure it must have presented some challenges from an art perspective.
We actually had a pretty fresh perspective on, like, okay, what do we want to do with these IP? How do we want to take the game forward? And we brought these new perspectives.
One of the goals was that we wanted, if you took a screenshot of Blind Forest and a screenshot of Will o' the Wisps and put them side by side, that you can tell the difference. And I think that the lighting really comes through on that. You know, a lot of times tech team might not get all the credit that they deserve for what goes into, you know, making the art for the game, but you know, we had kind of a vision for what we wanted to do, and they found a way to make it happen.
Jason, I'm curious as well. You know, I'm sure you had kind of similar challenges between, you know, Miles Morales and the previous game, and you know, what were some of the challenges there of challenges and changes that wound up happening within, you know, the previous game to what we wind up seeing in Miles Morales?
So we wanted to create a home, which was, you know, East Harlem, Spanish Harlem, El Barrio, whatever you want to call it. But in order to really capitalize on that, we wanted to make sure that there was the opposite of his home. So there was places that are alien to him.
That's really been my focus on this project, and trying to make the most memorable, good-looking characters on PS5.
Jen, I'm kind of curious too about, you know, where did you all kind of come up with the inspiration for how you wanted the underworld of Hades to look?
So it was really important to us, actually, for this game that we make sure to stay close to the source material, but not so close that we felt too creatively restricted. We wanted it instantly recognizable, but with a twist. Like, it was the first time we had this huge body of creative work that we could borrow from. And that was such a lubricant to our creative process. It was so refreshing.
That's a perfect segue to Eric to ask about him in The Last of Us 2.
Our goal for the game was to create like the seamless cinematic experience, you know, that can be very natural and believable. So, you know, we rely heavily on natural lighting. So we referred to a lot of the films that we like, you know, that would immerse the players or the viewers.
I get to do my favorite part of the show now, which is give away an award. That's going to be super, super fun. Our D.I.C.E award winner for the Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction goes to Ghost of Tsushima. Congratulations, congratulations, congrats. Yay.
You know, I'm looking this room and I'm just super honored to even be in the room, let alone, you know, blown away by winning it. You know, working on this game has been one of the most prideful moments of my career. You know, I've learned a lot and I get to work with some of the most talented people at Sucker Punch and all of our new colleagues in Japan and all our consultants that helped us. You know, I too also value lighting. I did lighting for 10 years. It's one of my, I just think that it's getting the atmosphere and the lighting right in a game is so important. And I worked with our team to really nail this. And I just feel really fortunate to be at this point in the industry and that Ghost is enjoyed by so many people. So thank you for organizing this and super appreciate this award.
Yet another win for Sucker Punch in Ghost of Tsushima. Congratulations, everyone up there in Bellevue.
Cleaning up.
And I want to give out 2 more quick awards. The first is Family Game of the Year. The nominees are Animal Crossing New Horizons, Astro's Playroom, Dreams, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, Sackboy: A Big Adventure. And the winner is Animal Crossing New Horizons.
On behalf of the Animal Crossing team, you know, especially Aya Kyogoku, who directed the game, and Hisashi Nogami, who was the producer, their deep gratitude from across the pond in Japan. I hope all of you hear it. You know, they are extremely grateful for not only the attention, but just to continue to hear stories of, you know, families playing together, and especially sometimes families who aren't physically together and have been separated over the past year and have been able to come together over this game. Has been really, really enormously gratifying and made all the hard work worth it. So from the team, thank you very, very much for this award.
Excellent win. You guys got me through the first half of the pandemic. Thank you so much.
I think it got everyone through the first half of the pandemic, right? Being able to go there and trade on the stock market, everybody had a great time. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, next is the award for Strategy/Simulation Game of the Year. The nominees for this are Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Monster Train, and Per Aspera. And the winner is Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Well, I mean, at first, it's very humbling. Maybe a shout out to our community. You know, like we oftentimes say, this is, you know, at Microsoft, this series predates Windows and Office. You know, it's been 38 years, and the audience is amazing. They know more than we do, and they share it freely with us every day. And it's been a fantastic journey of discovery together. And we all want and hope to work on this for a long, long time to make this into the perfect sim, the perfect flight sim. So, thank you, David.
Yeah, really. I'm just to mention. I will not repeat, but I'm fully aligned with what your guys just said. It's true for the community, and sometimes the community is you know, even real life pilot and everyone who has help, because again, the sim is so complex and so vast in different areas that it's impossible for a single human to know everything. It's even the case in real life too. So. We did this thanks to the community, and it includes also the real life pilot. And so hello to my instructor and as both instructors. and all those people who have been passionate in order to try to teach us what needed to be in the sim. And also a big thank you to the former team of Flight Sim, because they made the foundation of everything initially, and we are here today because of them initially. So thank you to you guys.
Jess, I know you were a big fan.
I do. I enjoy that quite a bit. It's gorgeous.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like you were talking about, you couldn't go
Autopilot,
anywhere.
drinking, looking at the sunset.
So it's just like you're like Tony Stark. You're in your private jet looking at it the whole time. All right, I agree.
Just hanging out in the sky. Congratulations to the team at Asobo, and congratulations to all the nominees. Now let's move on to the next room, but before we do, don't forget to check in at interactive.org for links to the full conversations on any of these rooms. The complete recordings are scheduled to be released over the coming months and justify why Ka had to spend the last 3 months in his basement.
All right, back to the script with another great roundtable. This time, it's with the nominees for Online Game of the Year.
There have been other multiplayer Tetris games in the past.
Yeah.
You know, what was your approach to Connected that made this experience different for the player?
So we thought it's best to make our main multiplayer mode non-competitive. So then, as a result, we made a 3-player cooperative mode named Connected mode. And this mode enables the players playing board, enables the players board to combine or to connect it into one. To our delight, it worked really well. Players loved this mode. That's super good news.
David, where do you see the online space going for Call of Duty?
Call of Duty has such a massive audience that we can't create enough online content to keep people satisfied. So you've got a competitive multiplayer experience, you've got a VR experience, you've got co-op experiences, in our case with the Zombies universe.
Animal Crossing feels like its own metaverse at this point in that way. You know, where do you kind of see things moving in the online spaces moving forward, and kind of, you know, do you think that that's going to be the thing that's going to wind up being the kind of more encompassing route? Is we're going to see more metaverse experiences in that way?
The experience of Animal Crossing from conception, from the very first game, was about communication. You know, it was about communication between people, communication between you and the animals in your village. And in many ways, I think that we're getting closer and closer to what its true final form should be, which is something that has a nice virtuous loop of gameplay between single player and multiplayer. Whatever you're doing, you're getting a benefit from traveling, but then you're going back and spending a ton of time back on your own in the single player component to then feed back into the loop of having other people come over.
Joseph, I'm curious to know what the process is to continuously come up with new gameplay for your community.
Like, the quicker that feedback process can be with the community, the better. And I think we're in a really unique place where, you know, I can just go onto the Discord when we're figuring out which the next show we want to run is, and I can just ask, like, quickly, what are you guys enjoying? Like, we don't have to necessarily go and do a deep dive into the analytics. We can have, like, a very frank conversation with very passionate people and be open that we've messed things up in the past. You know, we're not getting it right, and we are a studio that is doing this for the first time. And I think we found the community really appreciate that honesty and that openness.
So I'm curious, like, what were some of the kind of foundational elements that the team wanted to kind of work through development and make sure we're in the multiplayer section, and you know, so that you knew it was going to, or hopefully make sure it was going to find success?
Ghost is an open world it's an open world game, but it's kind of a sequential story and experience. And we knew that co-op would have more kind of segmented gameplay where you join and leave, and then also Ghost is, you know, very much about immersion and feeling like you're part of the world. And if your friend's making fart jokes on the mic, you know, it's going to disrupt that. So we knew we couldn't rely on that. We wanted to move what we were focusing on in co-op to be kind of more robust, like our narrative delivery and how we made you feel immersed. We wanted to be more robust against that, because we knew we're going to have other players in the space at the same time.
Well, the creativity of the folks in this room is paramount, again, as shown by the folks nominated today. And now I get a chance to give someone an award for all their hard work and the team that they have built up to make all these wonderful games. Let's see. So our winner for the DICE Online Game of the Year award goes to Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout.
Hey.
Congrats, Joe.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, like, we talked a little bit about doing things that haven't been done before, and when we launched the game, we didn't know if anybody was ever going to play it. Like, we really were worried that the servers would have 60 people barely, and that would be that. And you know, 2 days into release, it was just this huge relief of pressure that I didn't really realize had built up over the like 2-3 years of development. It's this huge moment of just like, oh my god, people like it, people care, and then you see it grow and you see it build into this like passionate community who like will like furiously campaign for like tail tag versus team tail tag versus the levels that they think should be in the game. Like, it's just so lovely to have a community that cares so passionately about your game, and I'm very thankful for everyone who's played it, everyone who allows us to like come to work every day and like solve those headaches about what to do next and what needs attention. It's the situation that I always wanted to be in, is waking up and checking the forums and seeing what people are saying, and very, very thankful to everyone who's, you know, voted for this and then given us a chance to make this game. It's a pretty incredible position to be in.
Man, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout is definitely one of those games you see people coming back to over and over and over again. Myself, I know I played it so much at launch, and then I've been waiting now for when the next giant wave will bring me back in. They just keep putting so much good content.
I just keep getting mad at it again and again
That's
and
fair.
again and again
Yeah.
and again.
Yeah, I can understand
Especially
that.
when I make the same stupid mistake about 15 times in a row.
Yeah. It's the only game that I don't want to get hugs in. Don't hug me. Don't grab me. Don't touch me. Leave me alone. Let me run.
Fair enough. Our second to last award is for Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction.
Now, game directors are responsible for tying together all parts of the game, from the gameplay to the story to the interface to the graphics.
But since they're the experts, let's hear what the nominees have to say.
You made some super awesome games in the space. Thinking about that in kind of the broader sense, you know, how has the game development part of all this kind of changed you and it made you kind of think about it broader in game direction?
Yeah, it's you know, the first thing that came to mind is how in my role there's this temptation, as when you have this title of creative director, it's like, well, you think of these kind of visionary game creators in the industry, and you feel this pressure that, you know, the ideas must come from you. But over time, I've felt very distinctly my role evolve to become that of just trying to ensure that my colleagues have kind of the most creative freedom possible to do the work that makes them the most excited, and then find ways to tie it all together and make it feel like we planned it that way.
For us, you know, we sort of put some stakes in the ground in the beginning of developing the game about, you know, how it was going to end in some form, and some things that were going to happen in the middle. But we really tried to leave a lot of open space and leave a lot of blank spots in the story from the start, in order to kind of give us space to follow our passions. And the result is that sometimes the game feels very schizophrenic. So that was really important for us to sort of learn how to maintain spontaneity over the course of, you know, we started working on this game in the summer of 2010. So over the course of about 10 years, how to maintain spontaneity and leave room for whatever it was that we were excited about 8 years from now or whatever, to sort of like find a home in the game.
I wouldn't have really thought before I worked at Valve that our method of making games would work out very well. Namely, that nobody has a job description, or there's no division of labor, and there's no hierarchy. And I think that having a game come together in an atmosphere and environment like that is always amazing. And you know, before I worked at Valve, you know, just wouldn't have been certain that we could pull that off. And you know, worked during Half-Life 1 and worked again on Half-Life Alyx. We were, you know, it just was really an honor to be a part of the team. I'm here representing the team's direction, but it really was a kind of equivalent effort across the entire group.
The core element that makes the game happen is the passion of the people around you that are all so invested in putting their creativity into making it work. And one of the things that's just changed tremendously for us, you know, going from from Rocket Robot on Wheels all the way up to Ghost, is that as the scale of the team gets bigger and the scope of the game gets bigger, more than ever, providing a sense of unified vision for what it is that everybody's working on becomes absolutely paramount, so that those passions all pull in the same direction.
The big work environment change that I experienced over the course of this game was involving people that you wouldn't involve in normal game development, reaching out to cultural consultants, mannerisms coaches, and dialect coaches, and script reviewers from Japan, and and just really adding a whole new category of people that help make your game was such an evolving thing for us.
I would say like The Last of Us Part 2, for me, in like thinking about it on this high level, it's like a magic trick of empathy that we're trying to get you to experience. Like, we want to do this whole game as a way of making you understand why someone would do something that on the surface is very, very, very bad. And to me, The Last of Us Part 2 is that taken to the macro scale of like an entire 15-hour experience.
And I think the thing that I was really excited about coming to the sequel is like, okay, let's take all of that stuff and either recontextualize it or take it to another level. Now that we have this foundation, like how can we jump off of that and basically find new permutations, new ways of displaying these things, new content.
For this year, our winner for Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction goes to Hades. Goes to Hades. Congrats.
Nice.
Yes.
It's unbelievably humbling among this group. This group includes like my personal favorite games of the year, so it's just all the more reason. I played your games and I'm in awe of them. So part of this is very surreal for me, but I really as mentioned, I really owe it. I owe this to the team, my longtime colleagues, all 7 of us who were there from the Bastion days. We're all still together, and the direction, such as it is at Supergiant, in some respects, I think we've got it a lot easier than some of you folks because our team is small, and I think strictly speaking, direction is easier with fewer people. I guess so. But we've found our ability to keep the team together and work past our kind of individual idiosyncrasies and be able to find these concepts that resonate personally with each of us and have the trust in each of us to kind of do our best work and seek inspiration from whenever we poke our heads up from our individual work, we get inspired by the work that goes on around us. That's certainly helped a lot to get to this point. And I'm just so grateful to work with a group of people that put the faith in me to do what I get to do, because it's the kind of job that I never would have gotten had I just applied for it. It took a couple of friends trusting me. So yeah, so thank you so much for thinking of our game for this. It's an incredible honor.
Congratulations again, Hades. And guys, we've come to the big one, Game of the Year. And like we were saying, Jess, Hades, Last of Us, Ghost, they're all in the running. Everything's getting crazy out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna. What are you gonna? Before you scroll ahead on your script, who are you gonna guess?
Ooh.
I'm gonna
I would
stick
say
with my
Hades
guns
this
and
time.
say Hades.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Hades too.
Khalif?
Ka, you know.
I know.
You
I
did the
can't-
panel, didn't you?
I know.
All right,
I know.
fine then.
Oh,
Well
you
then.
know? Oh, that's right. You know. Oh.
Everyone at home just has to look at my eyes and see which one is one. See if there's any blinks in there.
Game of the Year represents everything a game can be. Good to play, good to look at, and all around captivating.
That's enough from us. Let's finally hear from the developers of the nominees for Game of the Year. Starting with Final Fantasy VII Remake, Keitase-san, as the director of the original Final Fantasy VII, how do you feel the remake both honors and moves forward the game's legacy?
そうですね、原作と今の時代一番大きく違うのは、原作はやっぱりゲームプレイのバトルシーンがターンベース、コマンドベースの、作品だったのに加えて、今のゲームシーンのトレンドっていうのはやっぱりアクション がトレンドになってますので、いかにそこを融合させるか。やっぱり原作好きな人はこうゆっくりと戦略的に遊びたいし、今の若い世代のユーザーはアクションで遊びたい。その2つの融合をさせることが非常に大きなテーマで、まあそれがうまく本作ではいったと思っています。
Amir, I'm curious about, early access was a big part of the development of the game, and a lot of folks, when it kind of came to it, that was a huge part of the kind of lore of the game itself kind of being out in the world. Did releasing the game in chunks kind of present any unique challenges, or kind of how did it affect the way that the kind of really robust narrative has come out as well?
We sort of imagined it like an episodic TV show or something like that, where we would be releasing episode after episode, which meant that we really had to stick the landing on the ending, and see how it would all come together.
Brian, Ghosts have been in development was for 6 years in terms of the development journey. What lessons did you kind of learn throughout the years of development, and what do you kind of hope to bring forward into future projects?
Yeah, it's interesting. The first couple of years, I think we really only knew that we wanted to do a melee-based game. We actually set aside a couple games that were in that space because I think in the end, it was incumbent on us as creators to really understand where and when the special was, and did we really have something?
Nate, in New Horizons, folks were allowed to express themselves in new and creative ways. How important was it for each player to feel like their island was uniquely their own?
I mean, I think you've hit on really the central important thing in the game, which is to not only make a unique space for yourself, but make a unique space that maybe you want to show to other people. And certainly I think the biggest step the team took with that was the ability to really decorate the outdoors. I mean, you have, of course, your house, which you're putting the right wallpaper up, you're sort of setting the right rugs in the right places. But once you step outside and you can just create this entire wonderland, I have a dinosaur park over in my northwest corner. And, people have just, the level of creativity on display that we've seen is just absolutely incredible.
And Neil, I want to throw it to you about, the space in which kind of Last of Us 2 kind of laid with the, you're in this post-apocalyptic world, and it's filled with all these moments of this moral ambiguity. How did you kind of keep players invested in the world and its characters, while kind of still having this really haunting experience?
Yeah, I guess you're talking to some of the darker subject matter that exists in that world, and I think that's part of the game that we're making. So we had to lean into that and double down on those things and own the kind of message and genre that we're in, but then find the right balance with more lighthearted moments or character moments or just mechanics that keep you engaged. So we keep asking ourselves the question is like, okay, how can we immerse you in the world, pull you into the story, into the narrative, into the relationship of the characters, create interesting mysteries for you to kind of keep you engaged intellectually, as well as keeping you engaged like mechanically.
We're at the best part of our conversation, where I have the honor of announcing the 24th Annual D.I.C.E Awards Game of the Year. And the winner of the Game of the Year is Hades. Nicely done. Congratulations. Now say a few words for the folks at home.
Congrats.
Well, thank you so much for everybody who picked Hades as Game of the Year, and on behalf of our entire team that worked on it, we just want to express our gratitude to our families who supported us, our players in early access who helped make Hades better, and to all the other game developers out there making games that inspired us, including everybody on this panel and people who have been nominated all throughout the award show, who made like really meaningful and important games at a time when I think a lot of us were like really relying on them. So thanks to everybody. I really, really appreciate it.
It was Hades. Congratulations, Supergiant Games. Holy shit, great job. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Man, I
And
should
that's
have
it.
put money on that.
I was looking into Ka's eyes. You didn't give it away. Poker face. I appreciate that. And that's the show, guys. Thank you, Ka, Jess, and obviously everybody at DICE for having us back. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll all see you next year. It's going to be super, super fun.
Can't wait.